Welcome everyone to QuickBooks Online Update Q1 2023. This is the advanced webinar series that I run. My name is Hector Garcia, and the last update was actually for Q3 2022 due to a vocal cord surgery that I had in early December. I had to cancel Q4, so we basically pushed it to January and are now switching to Q1 through 4 starting January. In April, we'll do Q2 and so forth. So right now we're focused mostly for the most part on QuickBooks Online users and what are the new things that they expect to see in their QuickBooks Online. Let's start with QuickBooks related news. So I'm just gonna go through all the things that I find interesting connected to the QuickBooks world. So the first thing is for QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise users, and I know that had nothing to do with QuickBooks Online, but it's worth pointing out that two of the features were fixed in R3. So in QuickBooks Enterprise 2023, they had inventory categories that were not supporting reports at the moment, and expiration dates was also not supporting reports. So in the R3 update that came out around October, I believe, October or November of 2022, you will now get report support and filter support for inventory categories, and you get an expiration status report for expiring lot number. So that's it with QuickBooks Desktop. That's the most I will talk about that. Now let's talk about something that QuickBooks is offering starting January 18. So that's yesterday, as of the day of this recording. They went public and announced that they're doing a 4-week test where every single QuickBooks Online new subscription, they are going to market to them, or they're going to try to put them into an appointment with a product expert. Now, they haven't told us if the product expert is an internal support person, if it's somebody from the QuickBooks Live team, which is in many ways, sometimes they're sort of outside ProAdvisors. But long story short, new QBO users this year, first 4 weeks, starting January 18th, will proactively get a training session, sort of a guided setup from Intuit directly, a 45-minute worth session. Now, I did some digging, trying to figure out what it includes, what it doesn't include. I know that most people watching this, they're not going to want that. They're not going to need that. But if you're supporting new QuickBooks Online clients because you're an accountant or whatever, I think it's going to be valuable that that you know exactly what's being offered and what's included and what's not included. So it's a general tour of QuickBooks. That's how they're marketing it. They're going to show small businesses key tabs and functions. So basically, how to click and navigate around QBO. They're going to show them how to navigate account and settings, how to navigate the chart of accounts. I'm not sure how much actual chart of accounts customization will happen. I guess we'll learn that pretty soon. Banking, which I assume is connecting the banks and showing people how to basically enter some transactions downloaded from the bank, and maybe running some basic reports. And they are saying that it doesn't include payroll, sales tax, help with desktop to online conversion, although there's a different service for converters, which we'll talk about soon, or tax or accounting advice. So for the accounting professionals that are freaking out because they're offering a guided setup, look, it's the same support people that are supporting Intuit. I mean, they're supporting QuickBooks Online users, probably, maybe some QuickBooks Live people. So maybe they'll get a little bit more, but nothing does replace an actual accountant, a professional, helping a small business owner through that. But that's there, and it exists, and it's important that you understand. I put a link to the public announcement of that. It's important that you're aware of that existence, especially if you are an accounting pro, which is the vast majority of people that follow my work are accounting pros. Second thing I want to talk about is ProAdvisor of the Year for Insightful Accountant nominations and February 15th. Only reason why this is newsworthy because this happens every year, and I never really talk about nominations, but they added 2 categories: Enterprise ProAdvisor and QuickBooks Online Advanced ProAdvisors, just to kind of drawing a dotted line on Intuit's strategy to have more mid-market presence. So Intuit is supporting Insightful Accountant magazine or publication, whatever you call it, on also recognizing the accounting professionals that are working the mid-market consulting through Enterprise and QuickBooks Online Advanced. So if you know someone or yourself are in that world, probably a good place to get recognition about your expertise in that particular area. All right. Next thing I want to talk about, it is January and it's 1099 season, and we're dealing with a whole slew of work around 1099s. I wanted to kind of break down what is QuickBooks' service offering around 1099s, because there's a lot of confusion around this, and honestly, I'm still partially confused. So I'm going to tell you what I understand so far. So if you are a non-QuickBooks user, you don't use QuickBooks Online, maybe you use QuickBooks Desktop, maybe you use Xero or something else, and you want to file 1099s through Intuit, there is a standalone contractor payments service that costs $15 a month, includes 20 contractors, and $2 a month per additional contractor. That service, when you sign up, it looks like QuickBooks Online, but the only thing you can do is create the contractors and put the dollar amounts. That's really all that is. And it includes direct deposit. So it is a service for you to pay up to 20 contractors direct deposit for $15 a month, which is actually pretty good, because if you use any other ACH type services that charge you $1 or $2 per contractor and you multiply it times 20, that goes way over the $15 a month, something to think about. And if you have more than 20, it's $2 a month additional. But what's really cool about it is if you have this service, it includes the 1099 filing. And from my understanding, if you had this service only for a month, in December, let's say, and you enter the payment without, making a direct deposit representing the entire year's worth of payment, you can essentially, just with 1 month of service, you can prepare 1099s for this. Now, to me, it's not clear if the 1099s include state filings, because I'm in Florida and Florida doesn't require 1099 states. I don't know if people have always complained about Intuit offering 1099s for federal, but not for state. So something to think about. That's there. It's available. The link is on the slides. The other thing that's worth adding is if you use QuickBooks Online with payroll, you can add contractor payments for $4 a month. Now that's a strange thing. Why it's one the equivalent of $2 and this one the equivalent of $4. But that's only for direct deposit. So what's interesting about this is if you have QuickBooks Online payroll and you don't pay your contractors via direct deposit, you can still generate 1099s. And 1099s are actually, from my understanding, they're free for people that have a payroll subscription. That's what I understand. If you have a payroll subscription, it's free. But if you also want the direct deposit, is $4 a month. So that's what I understand so far from it. However, for people that have QuickBooks Online, but don't have a payroll subscription and don't pay their contractor payments via direct deposit, they can still generate standalone 1099s via QuickBooks Online for $4.99 per form. I haven't tried any of these because I moved to Tax 1099 a couple of years ago when the QuickBooks Desktop stopped supporting 1099s built in, and QBO killed their IOP for accountants, IOP for into online payroll for accountants, and I moved some of my clients to ADP and that sort of thing. I changed to using a different system for 1099s, which is Tax 1099. So I couldn't speak to you firsthand about an accounting firm using QuickBooks for 1099s, but that's just what I understand. That's what's available. If I'm off in one way, shape, or form, let me know via the chat. Let me know via the comments, and we'll add corrections to that. Okay. Last thing I want to talk about. This is not related to QuickBooks related news, but I know some of you might have been following my whole thing about RightTool, and some haven't. So I won't make this an infomercial about RightTool, but long story short, I built an app. It was beta between the time that we did the last quarterly update till today. It was a beta. We went live last Monday. We basically went from beta to 1.0. There's a full free version and there's a pro version. So I encourage everybody to try the free version. And if you end up upgrading to pro, there's the coupon code to get 30% off RightTool for QBO. But what I do want to do is I want to talk about one particular feature in RightTool that has broken the internet. And maybe I'm exaggerating. It didn't break the internet. It made a bunch of accountants high five each other. That's really what happened. But from the perspective of like shocking the system, the most popular feature of RightTool has been like through feedback, through everything has been the Reconciled flag. So when you install RightTool Pro, this is not available on the free version, on the Pro, you now get a little flag next to each transaction, letting you know whether or not it has been reconciled. And if you actually click on that, it takes you to a transaction journal report that, that exposes debits and credits immediately, because I know accountants, that's a minimum requirement, and also exposes the clear column, so you know exactly which column is one reconciled, and is particularly useful for transfers, credit card payments, or journal entries that potentially contain more than one line that could represent whether or not that has been reconciled. We also fix the escape loop. Normally, when you go to a transaction journal and you click on back, you lose a transaction you're working on. But what's really cool is if you're here, you click on back to transaction. That's a button that we added to RightTool. It takes you back into that transaction. So I have been for a very long time marketing and pushing RightTool, and this is as much promotion I'm going to do about it. If you're not using it right now, you're missing out, honestly. Sorry to say that, but you are truly missing out, especially if you're a QuickBooks Online user. All right, let's talk about the next big thing, which is, and this is big, especially given the amount of desktop to online conversions I have done and desktop to online conversions I have seen. A whole slew of clients and QuickBooks users are now ditching desktop and going to QBO. And I want you to make sure you understand a couple of really important caveats. And there's one in particular that we're going to go into details on that, because it's such an important one, especially for contractors or people using projects. We'll talk about that in a second. So the first one is that prior to probably January or mid-December, whenever you convert from desktop to online, your QuickBooks Desktop jobs come in as sub-customers in QBO. And you had a button in QBO to make a one-time conversion to move them from sub-customer to projects. And there isn't one to go back. You can't go back from projects back to sub-customers. And there was one button to do that. Now, the powers that be at Intuit heard the feedback that projects is such an amazing, mind-blowing feature that all the QuickBooks Online customers are raving about. They love projects, and they're ditching desktop for projects. That they said, let's just skip the step where the customers can make the conversion from sub-customer to project and just automatically make them all projects. So that's a great idea. I love the idea in spirit. The problem is projects are not in the API. So if you have a third-party app that interacts with your QuickBooks Online, especially if you're in construction, for example, okay? If you're in construction or you have a contractor that's going to use a third-party app like Core or what's it called? Notify or Builder Trend. If you're going to use any sort of third-party app to manage the construction side of the business, these third-party apps can only bring jobs as sub-customers. So when you convert all your sub-customers to projects, no longer the third-party apps can actually interact with your QuickBooks Online. And that's a huge, huge problem. Now, for some reason, I heard that QuickBooks Time, previously known as T-Sheets, can actually talk to projects if someone's using QuickBooks Online Advanced. That's what I've heard. I haven't tested it. But again, it is such a small percentage of the population, right? People using QuickBooks Online Advanced and T-Sheets. And those are the ones that can, interact with projects with a third-party tool, or what used to be called a third-party app, even though QuickBooks Time is actually owned by Intuit. So just a bit of a really big warning for you. If, in fact, you convert to QuickBooks Online from desktop, they will come in as projects. Now, there's a really important question here. Lisa from the chat is saying, what if you convert to QuickBooks Online Essentials? Will they still convert as sub-customers? And that's a great question, because QuickBooks Online Essentials doesn't have projects. But guess what? When you convert from desktop to online, especially when you use the prompt inside QuickBooks Desktop, it only puts it in QuickBooks Online Advanced for you. It doesn't give the option to the user to go down to Plus, Essentials, or Simple Start. It tells you, hey, you can always, keep Advanced, or you can downgrade at the end of your trial, whatever. So it's a good strategy for Intuit to try to get more people in QuickBooks Online Advanced. The problem is that there wouldn't be a path to upgrade from desktop straight to Essentials or Simple Start to avoid this project's issue. So the only possible way, Lisa, to answer your question, and I have not tested it. Now, thank you for letting me know. Now I will not have an afternoon because I have to now test it. If you create a QBO, Simple Start, and Essentials QBO account outside of the desktop migration process, and then you run the migration and have it log in instead of connect straight, maybe, possibly, it will keep it as sub-customers and not projects, but I don't have the answer to that question. So I hate to do that in a live webinar to say, hey, I don't have the answer to the question, but I love to post the question so the community can go out there, test it, and let me know what the answer is. Because at least that's a really good point you're making. Thank you for that. The next big thing, and they announced this at QuickBooks Connect, and I love this. I mean, I don't see any like flaws in this. Like the other issue does have a potential flaw, but this one, I don't see any flaws. Bank rules are now going to import from desktop. Now, I haven't seen it actually happen. Like I've done a couple of desktop conversions a couple of weeks ago, right at the beginning of the year, but I didn't actually see the rules come in, but probably at some point in January. And I would love to know in the live chat or in the comments if you have done a desktop to online conversion and actually seen those rules come in. That would be really cool, really interesting. Because I'm also curious to see how they come in. Do they come in as a bank text? Do they come in as bank description? Do they come in as all bank accounts? Do they come in for a specific bank account? I assume it's all bank accounts because desktop doesn't have that functionality. But that's kind of what I'm thinking on that. And again, who knows? They made it seem like it was going to happen right away. But I have not seen it, unfortunately. Next thing I saw, which I found it kind of curious, and again, this might be another one of these situations where Intuit did not call an accountant and say, hey, is this going to work? Because there's one fundamental flaw in this. I love the concept, but there's one fundamental flaw in this, which we're talking a little bit, which is when you convert from desktop to online, now you have three options. You have export all data, which is the way it's been done before. So just export all data, everything comes in. And when I say everything, I mean everything in air quotes, but everything attempts to come in anyway. So there's no, they're not gating any specific piece of information. Second option is export specific data. And the second option has sort of two sub-options. One is only list. So I love this. I love, hey, just bring in customers, vendors, chart of accounts. This I can see as a really useful thing, especially if I've already cleaned up my customer list and vendor list and that sort of thing in desktop. But that middle option, all lists and balances, it's actually a very curious one. What ends up happening is it brings all the lists. It doesn't bring transactions, but it brings one BAJE. You know what a BAJE is? BAJE. Is that correct? BAJE? Badge? Big ass journal entry. So it brings a BAJE, a big ass journal entry that basically grabs at the day you did the conversion, it grabs all the balances of like sort of your balance sheet and puts one big ass journal entry and puts it in there. So I love the spirit of this concept. The problem is that this is completely useless. Like no one's books is ever going to be 100% up to date, up to the day of that they're doing the conversion. And then somehow when they press convert, merging the balances on that conversion date, the whole thing is just nonsense. Okay. So nonsense. So like if for this to make sense, and Intuit is so close at this, so close, is for you to say, hey, can you bring all the balances up to 12/31/2022? Like that little change is a complete game changer to this feature. But just failing to give the user the choice of what is the date of that beginning balance makes this feature, for the most part, I think, kind of useless. Now, I could totally see an exception to this, and I could totally see how somebody could say, Hector, you're wrong because there's a workaround. Okay, possibly. So let's say you have QuickBooks Desktop file that's up to date, super clean, up to 12/31/2021. Let's say that's what you have. You have this desktop file that you built for the 2021 tax return. It's completely clean. There's not one transaction for 2022, not one transaction for 2023. You do this crazy option. It creates a big ass journal entry. And then all you gotta do is take that big ass journal entry and change the date to 12/31/2021. That's a great workaround. That will work. But I'm not sure how many scenarios where that's gonna be the reality. Most scenarios, there's gonna be some transactions, through the day of that conversion, and just having a journal entry that day, those values really mean nothing. All right, well, that's my rant on that. But again, I think it might be useful to some people. The other thing that I noticed as I was doing some desktop to QuickBooks Online Advanced conversions is at the end of the conversion, there was sort of like a quick advertising for the QuickBooks Desktop app. So QuickBooks Desktop app to run QuickBooks Online. Try to say that 3 times fast. So QuickBooks Desktop app that runs QuickBooks Online. And I would love to know if you're using the QuickBooks Desktop app for QuickBooks Online. So let me just bring some context. The QuickBooks Desktop app is only for Microsoft Windows. The QuickBooks Desktop app has the word Advanced app in it. And when it first came out, to my understanding, it was only working for advanced accounts. And then they opened it, so every account type opens. So some people are downloading the app and it's replacing the browser. Okay, so I'm gonna run a quick polling question, and I'm building it for really quick. So I'm gonna do yes, I love it. Yes, it's okay. And then I'll do no, tried it and hated it, or no, never tried it. Okay. All right, let me save it really quick. And I just spliced together a polling question really quick. So polling question. Are you using the QuickBooks Desktop app for Windows that runs QBO? Again, this is not QuickBooks Desktop. This is QuickBooks Desktop app to run QBO. So are you using that at the moment? Okay. I don't use it. I don't use it. I don't want to get into it, but I like my browser. I like my Google Chrome, even though it's a RAM hog. But I make sure my computers have a lot of RAM in it. That's like one thing. I'm gonna go off tangent a little bit. If any of you are gonna buy a computer in 2023, get something that has like 32 gigs of RAM or more. Like, because even though it's a web-based tool, as you add Chrome extensions and just things to beef up your I use a lot of Chrome extensions, including RightTool, of course, to sort of beef up my productivity. The Google Chrome, unfortunately, is a great browser, but it's a big RAM hog. So you want to get a computer that has as much RAM as possible. Okay, that's my public service announcement. Spend the extra $500, the extra $1,000. Go, for God's sake, if you're an accounting professional, you are probably in the most profitable industry on earth. Why go buy a $600 computer? Forget that, okay? But get yourself a $1,500, $2,000 computer with 32 gigs of RAM or more. Preferably a Mac. Different conversation for a different day. But do that, because that's just gonna make everything better. I mean, speeding up your QuickBooks and everything better. So anyway, so that built-in desktop app, I don't use it. 7% of you said that they use it and they love it. 8% of you say they use it and it's okay. 20% of you tried it and hated it, and 66% never tried it before. So far, doesn't seem to be as popular as they deem to think. So anyway, the reason why this slide is relevant is because I noticed that it says the app access will expire December 31st, 2023. I don't get it. So are they killing the QuickBooks Desktop app for Windows that runs QBO? Well, surely sounds like it. And I was looking at other communications, and I was looking at some older communications, and they had scheduled to kill it December 31st, 2022. So I guess the 15% of you that use it were I guess making a big deal about it, and then they kept it for another year. I guess that's all speculation. I'm reading off the screen for you guys. But someone told me that in Canada they killed it already, so like they're not supporting it in Canada anymore. So long story short, like I don't think it's gonna work. I think people are always gonna go back to trusty Microsoft Edge and Google Chrome. Anyway, that being said, another thing I observed, which is a little bit different than that 45-minute guided tour, is that for every conversion from online to desktop I've done, and this is when I do it with for a client, not when I do it inside my QuickBooks Line Accountant wholesale account or the ProAdvisor preferred price account or whatever. When I sit down with an end user and I help them do the conversion, I notice that they're always trying to, or I've seen it, they've been trying to market a 1 hour setup call. So I assume it's similar than the 45-minute guided tour, or that 45-minute guided tour might be just an extension of this thing. But Intuit realized that when people go from desktop to online, there are hiccups, and the hiccups come from two possible places. One, from the shock of a change, like from like just something that looks very different, and two, from the fact that it's not the same. Like there's less features, different features. And I would say bonus three, the conversions don't always bring all the data. So obviously this is gonna cause some consternation. Users are gonna get a little bit frustrated, and to try to avoid overall frustration with the brand, because a happy QuickBooks Desktop customer should never be moved to QuickBooks Online unless they want to. Because in my opinion, when you convince someone to go from desktop to online, it's almost always a recipe for disaster. They have to decide it unto themselves, and then they have to sort of accept the consequences of doing it afterwards. So because Intuit is pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing people from desktop to QBO, they have to like allocate a whole hour of sort of training with a specialist to make sure that conversion process goes smoothly. So that's my theory on why this thing exists. If you call support, you can spend an hour with support. So I'm not sure if there's a true difference between it. Hopefully these people allocated for these sessions are a little bit more skilled, experienced, that sort of thing. So we'll see. And I also did notice that this whole 1 hour personalized setup is set to expire at some point in July of 2023. So it also seems to be short-lived. I know this is like wonky, inside baseball stuff, but I know some of you find this stuff interesting. We haven't lost a lot of people in the live webinar, so that means you must find this stuff kind of interesting. Anyway, also what they've done with the latest version of QuickBooks Desktop 2023 R3, it's built in that if you stop paying for the annual subscription, the desktop software will still work for a whole year after you stop paying for the subscription for view only. So thank God. I mean, honestly, it should work forever. I don't understand why you would limit it to a year, because if a company uses QuickBooks Desktop and closes, they could still possibly get audited in the next 6 years. So why not give them I'm going to get off my soapbox of this, but I'll take a year over nothing. But it should really be everything. Like QuickBooks Desktop should always be view only. Why in the world would they limit it to a year? Okay, we know why, but I don't want to say it. But at least it's something. It's a great first step. It's built into the software. Stop paying for QuickBooks Desktop. You can still at least view a file. Not bad. It's something. Okay. All right, let's talk about new features in QuickBooks Online. And we're going to talk about all versions. And then towards the end, we'll talk about the advanced edition. So first big thing that they've announced at QuickBooks Connect, and I think this is live, and this is so hard to test, and I will test this and maybe possibly do a video about it, but something that happened in the back end, which is they changed the priority to first hit matching before you hit bank rules. So I haven't tested this. Let's check this out. So let me go into my banking and let's look for a transaction here. And let's see how this will work. Here's a transaction. So we have this ATM withdrawal for $300 on 12/20/2022. Okay. So I'm going to create a rule. Actually, to avoid some confusion, let me turn off the right tools enhancements of banking, because I want to make sure you don't get confused if you don't use RightTool. So sorry about that. I personally, I cannot use QuickBooks anymore without RightTool. I feel like I'm missing an arm. You know, honestly, it's like I'm just completely useless without it at this point. But anyway, so let me create. I'm going to create a rule for this. Okay, so I'm going to go to create a rule, and we're going to call it withdrawal, and let's do payee. Let's do Hector Garcia. Okay, I'll delete this, and then I'll click on save. Okay, so we have a rule set up, which means when I come in here, the rule should pick up. Okay, and the rules are picking up for these two transactions because they contain the word ATM withdrawal. So the theory here that Intuit put in place is if there's a matching scenario, the rule will not sort of override the matching. The matching will override the rule. So let's see how that works. Just curious, in the chat box, is this interesting or is this like watching paint dry? Only two answers. Paint or interesting? Put it in the chat. Paint or interesting? Okay. All right. So no paint. Okay, good. Okay. So let's go into checking here and let's create the transaction. And we're gonna let's do 12, 25, 22. So we'll kind of 12, 25, 22. So we'll make it kind of close to that date, and we'll put here $300, and we'll select field expense, and we'll pick a vendor here. So in theory, once I click save here, save and close, I should now see in the bank rules, I should see the match over the rule. Okay, I'm going to refresh one more time. Okay, well, I got two people that feel this is watching paint dry. I get it, man. I get it. My kids watch me do this stuff all the time. They're like, "That accounting is so boring." I'm trying to inspire my kids to become accountants. And they're like, "Okay, I'll watch you work for a little bit." And they watch me reconcile a bank account. And it's not exciting at all. Like, I don't know how I'm going to inspire, the youth of this world to become accountants by reconciling bank accounts. But anyway, let me just double check I'm in the right account too. So this is BOA Super Duper Checking, and then the account, the check that I wrote was $300 right here. It is from BOA Super Duper Checking, so that should match, and that's the 25th versus the 20th. Okay, so that should match. I'm gonna delete the check number just in case that's tripping us up. Let me do save and close. Okay, so I guess the check number messed me up in this case. So yeah, so there it is. Okay, there it is. There you see it at work. Okay, so what's happening is even though there's a rule, the matching is going to override that rule. So it's going to try to match first. So that's good. But let's say, for example, if I wanted to use a rule instead, I guess I would change back to categorize. Yeah, but if I change back to categorize, this thing goes back to one match found. So there's like really not a way to sort of go back to a rule here. Oh, right here, rule apply withdrawal. Let me see if I click on that. That takes me to the rule, save. So what this might be missing is probably a way to click a button that goes skip match and go to the rule. I guess that would be kind of interesting, but I totally get it. So what they've done is they made matching a priority, and that's the first thing that they're gonna offer. I get it, but I'm missing a button that says, skip the whole matching thing and go to a rule instead. So there it is. So a great promise, maybe a little bit of an issue, a little bit of an issue, just completely giving us the ability to override that. Okay. Next thing because I am not I don't do a lot of multi-currency, so I can't demo this live. But I was talking to a Canadian friend of mine that was like throwing parties over it, which essentially is if in QuickBooks Online before this change, you could only do matching of transactions with your home currency. Now it can match foreign currency, and you can resolve the difference here. So now the auto matching, unfortunately, because foreign currency almost always has a differentiation in amounts because of exchange rates and stuff like that. This might cause some like auto matching being wrong. So well, what I think Intuit needs to do is give the power users a little bit more control about how they want. I know that an average small business owner has no flipping clue about prioritizing rules versus matching, or some flexibility or margin of error around auto matching of a foreign currency transaction. But I believe we should have a little bit more control so we can customize it based on which banks we have, which customers we have, which type of transactions we have. But for the people that this is working for them, they are like super excited about this, about being able to do that. Okay. The next thing is, which I don't see this in my live file, but this was promised in QuickBooks Connect, is you're gonna be able to batch edit bank rules, where you can grab a whole bunch that have been created with auto add, and in one button, essentially remove the auto add. So let's say you have a perfectly good rule. Yeah, I'm saying that correctly. Yeah, a perfectly good rule that the only thing wrong with it is the auto match. You can now just remove the auto match. So I don't see it in my live file yet, but they gave us a screenshot of what it will look like when we get it. So maybe you'll have it next week. Maybe you'll have it in 2025. We'll see. All right. Next one. This is a big effing deal, and it's it's small, it's subtle, but it's big. Okay. So chart of accounts contains the go-to page switcher in the top and the bottom now. So that used to be only in the bottom. Now it's also in the top. Now, I know it's small. I know it's not a big feature. It's one of these things that Intuit actually produced something because we asked for, not because it looks cool in marketing. So I really appreciate this particular improvement. Okay, it's small, it's there, but it's there, and it's right there on the top of the page. I love it. This was actually in my pipeline of things to fix for using RightTool to fix it. But I'm glad that they did it. So big deal. I like it. I think it's gonna save a lot of people many seconds times many iterations of that. So I love it. The other thing I saw, which was pretty interesting, turns out that people can now tip you on your invoices. So they can tip you 5, 10, 15%, none, or they can override it. So that's pretty interesting. But I don't know how to turn that off. Like honestly, I don't want to invoice my clients via QBO and have a tip there. I don't know. Like obviously I'll take the tip, but I can totally understand how some companies would see that just the option for the tip as unprofessional. So I would love to figure out how to turn that off. People said that you can go into sales, into settings, sales, and it's called accept tips. Okay, cool. Thank you. Anyway, next one. I haven't seen this one in my file either, but I like this a lot, which is you can now accept payment via PayPal, Venmo. And so this is really cool. I like this. I think I appreciate this quite a bit because I like to pay things with PayPal many times, and so I would love to. I don't know how this works. Like if they put that money in my bank account directly via QuickBooks Payments, because I also have a PayPal account, but it doesn't seem that this is gonna put money in my PayPal account. It's gonna accept the payment via PayPal and then put it in your regular bank account, and but they're gonna charge you 2.9%. So that could be an issue if Venmo was an ACH payment before, and ACH payments don't really cost that much or at all in some cases. So I'm not sure. But long story short, if I can get paid via PayPal, I like that. The other thing I saw is, and I have a button that says I want this, and I guess you can express interest towards it, but I don't see a way to turn it on. But it looks like at some point in the future, you will be able to accept payment via cryptocurrency at a 0.2% fee. So that's better than 2.9, but and that's fine. The fee is fine, but that would be interesting also. Getting paid via cryptocurrency. I assume the cryptocurrency gets traded and is turned into dollars and put into your regular bank account. This is not going into like your wallet of your cryptocurrency account. Right? It's not transferring into a cryptocurrency. I assume somebody's using their cryptocurrency to pay you. I don't know. Honestly, I haven't seen it in action, and I don't think it's live yet. But the button is there, I guess, for you to express interest on it. Another big, kind of a big deal, it's they kind of upgraded the accountant version of the menu to look and behave a little bit like the business view version of the menu. So some of the things worth noting is the business view of the new menu has icons next to all the sections you can click on, and the accountant version doesn't. The business view version has the bank feeds inside of I believe like a banking button. Has inside bookkeeping. So inside bookkeeping, where the accountant edition has it in an actual thing called banking. So I like that, and that was pretty strong feedback from Intuit. From accountants telling Intuit, hey, I want to be able to quickly get the bank feeds, and I don't want to be sort of like, lost in the shuffle of your menus that have a whole bunch of non-QuickBooks related services that Intuit offers to business owners. I think some people love being able to customize the left navigation bar, which I appreciate that, but I don't think it's complete. I think the left navigation bar, even though people don't like change here, I think it does need to be changed again. It needs to be redesigned again. There's something's not right with the left navigation bar. It really is. I mean, like you have these double menus that open. Do I have this? Can I show this? I don't have the new one. Let me log out for a second so I can show you the new one. I'm hoping that I have it on one of my newer files that I created. Maybe in this UK company I created. Let's see if it's in this one. This is what it is. So what you're seeing here is the accountant version of the new left navigation bar. I'm going to switch to the business view, and this is the one that accountants hate a lot because when you click on something, it has like this double menu where it takes the top category, moves to the left, and it has this other menu here. The problem is if you move the mouse, I'm not clicking. If you kind of move the mouse, this stuff starts moving around. It doesn't pin in place, and this is what people are not liking. Like I don't know. I don't like it either. I find it so convoluted. So I get it that you want to make it simpler and easier, right, with these subcategories. But I find this whole thing so convoluted. Now, if you switch to accountant views, if you're an accounting professional or a power user, you're not going to be using the business view. This one also has that, but like, for example, banking actually takes you to bank feeds. Whereas with the old view, banking took you to some weird QuickBooks banking screen, but it still has this double menu. Like things are organized differently. At least the overview, the dashboard, and the tasks are all like fixed links. But like banking, it's a double-sided menu. Sales is I don't even know what to call this, a sliding sub menu. I mean, the menu settings, it's cool that you can customize and make it your own. So I can just kill this whole thing the way they have it, okay, and then make my own, and then say, okay, so I want to have let's say banking and all sales, and I want to have customers and expenses and click on save. And if I do it this way, then I have sort of my own custom menu right here. It says bookmarks, and these don't open. So if you create custom bookmarks, these don't open. So like the only workaround is you get rid of the standard menu, and you're gonna have this collapsed thing that says more, and everything will be sort of closed. And then anything that's under bookmarks, these will all be fixed menu. So this is like the only workaround I can think of if you don't like that weird sliding thing. Okay. All right, there we go. So that's as much as we could talk about that. Let's move to QuickBooks Online Advanced. Okay, let's do estimates versus actuals in QBO Advanced. Okay, this one actually works, so it's exciting to discuss. So let's go into QBO, and we're going to do the whole process here. And I actually do have a video on this, so you can also check out the video. But I'm going to start by going into projects. You have to understand the entire logic of this. This is actually a really great feature. Honestly, like one of those game changer features that it's already been in desktop for like 25 years, but it's game changer because it's in QBO now. But I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to call it Advanced Webinar Live 01/19/23. Okay, and then the project is AAA construction and is in progress. That's correct. And go to save. So I got a project in. Next step is I'm going to create what's called a cost estimate. Again, this is only in advance. So I'm going to click here, it says add to project, and then I'm going to click on cost estimate. By the way, there's no way to get to cost estimate through the new button. So if you go to new button and you go to estimate, that will take you to an estimate, not a cost estimate. And for some weird reason, there's no like place to go, you know what? I really meant to do a cost estimate. Can you convert this estimate into a cost estimate? Of course not, because that would be easy and practical, and that doesn't happen in this world. But no, you literally have to know that you have to come in here and you have to click on go add to project and click on cost estimate. So once you click on cost estimate, it opens up this thing that looks exactly like an estimate, but it's a cost estimate. Okay. What's different on this is that you now see a column for your cost and a column for customer price. And this is a significant change. And this has always been in QuickBooks Desktop, even Pro, Premier, Enterprise has had this forever. And I love QuickBooks Desktop for construction because of this. And this was the biggest criticism that QBO got when it compares to desktop for construction, project management type companies, because it didn't have the estimate versus actual report, because it didn't have the project cost estimate capability. So let's say we're going to have a construction project that's going to contain labor, materials, and sub-labor. And just to kind of cheer me on, because I'm bummed out about that revenue recognition not working for the demo, and I'm gonna have some nice words with some Intuit people pretty soon about it. Can you tell me if you have used estimate versus actual in desktop? Like, have you used this before, and does it excite you to see this in QBO for now? Put it in the chat. So have you used estimates versus actuals in desktop? And it's exciting to see it in QBO. So it's like 50%. All right. So we're gonna start with your cost. So your cost is what you think is gonna cost you in terms of like that line item level in the estimate. What you think is gonna cost you. So you're gonna come in here and say, well, you know what? I think this might be cost me 90 hours at an average of a burden rate of $45 an hour. So this is how much it will cost me to put my employees on this project, so on the labor line on the estimate. But then to the customer, I'm going to charge them, a flat fee of, let's say, $10,000. Okay, on that line item level, right? And then we could get into bundles and that sort of thing if you want to hide some of these things, like hide some of these details. But for now, let's just break it down like that. Okay, so that lets you know pretty much where we are, and that this is supposed to be 10,000. Okay, good. Okay, next one is material. So I think materials are going to cost me, let's say, $3,500, and I'm going to charge for the materials, let's say, $7,000. And then the subcontracted labor, I'm gonna subcontract, let's say, I don't know. I'll break it down into two. So let's say we have, uh, we'll do here. Let me just use the same item. Dang it, hang on. Okay, so let's say this is gonna be contractor A and contractor B. Okay, and then let's say these guys are gonna charge me a $2,000 one to do one thing and $5,000 the other. And on these, I'm just gonna make a 50% markup, and I'm literally just putting percentages and letting this thing calculate. And of course, the percentage is not working because, why would it actually work? Jesus Christ. Okay. Let me put the total here. Let's do 3,000 and let's do 7,500. Okay. And I don't know. I guess it works if you don't put the percentage sign. Who the heck knows? And then this one this was supposed to be a 7,000. That's what it was. Okay. Just the screen's still a little quirky, I believe, but it's there. Okay. So my costs are gonna be this combination here: 4,050, 3,500, 2,000, and 5,000. I wish there was a subtotal here. Let's see if I do add subtotal. Does it do anything? Nope. Subtotal only adds the customer facing amount. So I wish I could see a subtotal for the cost. That would be nice. That would be actually useful. Okay. All right. And then this is the amount that we're going to charge, which is 27,500. So we're going to do save and close, and that's done. That's our estimate. Now, if we actually give this estimate to the customer, and when we print it, all that mumbo jumbo detail is not for the customer. That's only for your internal books per se. Okay. Like the customer is going to see the output amount, right? The 27,500. They can see the quantity. They can see the rate. You probably could customize this. Is this even customizable? Yes, it is. Let me see if I can just remove those columns. I don't want to see quantity, rate, just the amount. Click on done. And let's try that again. And print preview. Yeah, much better. Okay, so you customize the estimate. It only shows the customer's amount. It's the description's there. You can hide the description too. It's up to you how you want to do this. Okay, so there it is. It's 27,500 what we expect to get from this job. So if I were to run an estimates versus actuals report, so I'm going to click on project reports and then click on estimates versus actuals. What I'm going to see essentially is, or what I should see is the cost, the estimated cost, estimated revenue. The problem is for this report to work, that estimate needs to actually be in like approved status. And this is what a lot of people forget to do is they'll save the estimate, move on, and then go, oh, what the hell happened to my estimate versus actual? You actually have to change this from pending to accepted. Otherwise, it won't post in the report. So a little caveat there that you want to remember. So once you do that, you go back to your estimate versus actuals report, and then you have your estimated cost with the total. Now you see the total, and then we have your estimated income, 27,500, and that's what you expect to invoice the customer eventually. All right. So now let's say we're going to do maybe like a progress invoice or something like that. So let me open up the estimate, and I am going to invoice from here. So I'm just going to click on create invoice, and then let's say I want to invoice 20%, and which is 5,500. Go to create invoice, and that is how much I'm recognizing in revenue so far, which is basically 20% of every single quantity that's in there. So then when I click on save, then I can click on print preview. Let's do print preview over here, see what that looks like. Okay, so that could be a little bit confusing. So this is the part where you probably want to come in here in the description somewhere and maybe come up here to the top and put 20% of job phase 1 or something like that. Okay, So you have to, you gotta manually label these things because like QuickBooks is not making it easy for you. You kind of have to know that this has to make sense when you actually invoice this thing, okay? So then we invoice this thing and then we save and close. We get paid, we don't get paid. I mean, that's a topic for a different conversation, but it's invoiced, it's recognized, it's revenue. So now I go back to project reports, go back to estimate versus actuals. And then we see here estimated income 27,500, actual income 5,500. Now the difference -400, that's nonsense. So sorry, this report is really cool with some nonsensical columns. So this -400 doesn't mean anything. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain what this could potentially mean. So it means nothing. So this percentage difference, just ignore it. Can I get rid of it? No, I can't get rid of it. Well, anyway, unfortunately, it's a useless column. Both of these percentage differences are just plain dumb. Mathematical errors, really. Like the formula, it's wrong. And we'll export it to Excel and explain what it should be. All right. So now let's talk about putting some costs together. So like if you go out there and then make some expenditure. So I'm going to write a check to a contractor of sorts. So I got contractor number 5. And we're going to put this in the same item. So it would be 0.3. And then we can put here, put up drywall, whatever it is. Okay. And let's say this one's charged $1,800. And then the customer project here is going to be my advanced webinars project. And then I click on save and close. So the minute I start putting expenses onto the job, I go back into this estimate versus actual report. And then I will get the estimated cost. Again, -700% doesn't mean anything. It's a useless percentage. But what you can see is okay, I spent $1,800 so far out of $14,000 project. Let's say I'm gonna emulate a paycheck, and this is an important piece here that when you actually write a paycheck through QuickBooks Payroll and you job cost it, that's gonna hit that area. But for now, since we're not, I don't have payroll here, I'm gonna emulate a paycheck in this. So just imagine for a second that this thing was a paycheck, okay? And I'm just job costing it, so it goes to it. And I'm gonna go to save and close. And when I hit run report, I should now see actual costs, right? And let's do one more. Let's do for materials. Let's say we went to Home Depot and we spent, let's go down to the items. That's a really important piece. I do recommend you use items instead of accounts. So you're consistent with your estimate. So let's say we spend $4,200 in materials and then go to save and close. Okay. So now I click on report and there we go. So I have $7,000 out of $14,000 spent so far, -94%. That means nothing. And I've invoiced $5,500 so far. So far so good, except for those 2 useless percentage columns. This report is awesome. This is amazing. I mean, if you work with construction clients, with contractor type clients, and you've came from desktop and you haven't seen this in online ever, seeing this should make you really excited. And if you're like a construction consultant that likes to put people in QBO, this should make you even more super excited. Otherwise, you just don't have any soul. Sorry, you will burn in hell for not finding this stuff exciting. Anyway, so let's talk about how to go to like sort of the next level, which is making this report actually functional, which is we export this report to Excel. Okay. And I'm going to be teaching a little bit of sort of construction accounting here, which is whenever you do construction accounting, work in progress report, that's the thing. Okay. So like, the reason why construction companies need accountants, it's to produce the WIP report, the work in progress report. So we are very close, very, very close with the report that QuickBooks gives us, but it's just missing some things. So first of all, this percentage is wrong. Like the only percentage that matters here is how much I have left in my budget. So the formula should really be the difference divided by the estimated cost. So for this formula to work, it would actually be the difference divided by the estimated cost. Because this tells me that I have 40% left of the budget. So we're like, I did it in the wrong place right here. So we'll do whatever's left divided by the estimated cost. So let's just do this here. So, and I'm going to delete these ones here because there's nonsense. So we're going to put percentage left from budget. Okay. So if I wanted to see left from project, I would see that. But normally, what we actually see is percentage spent so far. So if I do it a little bit different, put percentage spent so far, and this is not the actual terminology that a WIP report has, but I'm just trying to make it as layman terms as possible. But this is what it would be, right? So if you want to know what the percentage of the budget you have so far is 51%. If you want to know how much you have left to fulfill that budget for that job, that estimated cost, you got 48% left. Like these percentages would make a lot more sense than the other random thing that we got there. Okay. Then we're gonna come in here, delete these, again, useless stuff. And then we're gonna have a percent invoiced from project. And then in here, we're gonna take what we've actually invoiced so far, which is 5,500 divided by 27. And this tells you that we have, so far, we have recognized or we have invoiced 20% of the project. That's because that's how we did it with the progress invoice. But the key element here is how much am I in my underbillings or my overbilling? So you need to have what's called recognized revenue. So the recognized revenue, it's supposed to be the estimated income or your project's value times the percentage you spend so far. Because if you spend half of your budget, cost budget, you should have invoiced your customer half of the entire sales amount. Otherwise, you're going to have a cash flow issue. And this is the part where a lot of construction companies mess up. Let me try this again. Hold on a second. So recognized revenue should be the spend so far times the estimated income. So what I should have invoiced so far is 14,000. That's what I should have recognized so far. So I will put that here. Okay, that's how much. Let me just put it down here. That's how much we should have invoiced so far. So now what you want to do is you want to find out if you are overbilling or underbilling. So we do over/underbilling. And then what we do is we take the amount that we've actually invoiced so far minus the recognized revenue. And then this tells me that I'm behind $8,000 in my billing. So this is a I don't know how to spell quasi, WIP report. Okay, I call it quasi WIP because construction is not my specialty, but I've had to do some WIP reports in my day, and this is what I remember doing. So this is kind of what an official WIP report would look like. Here, left to budget, I could probably get rid of that or hide it for now. This is the one that really matters. The other things to cover here, and we only got about 4 minutes left, is in the custom report builder, you can have a graphs now, and you can also schedule the reports to be automatically emailed via workflows. So let's show that really quick, and that's thankfully one of those things that show up quite quickly. So let's do I'm gonna do an invoice report. This is the custom report builder. This is QuickBooks Online Advanced, and let's say this is what the report gives me. That I can go here as chart view, and then I can run a report, and I can choose what do I want to see in the horizontal, right? And what do I want to see in the vertical, that sort of thing. But it's really, really neat. I mean, it's really, really fast, really neat. So if you build your custom report, you can quickly send it in a chart. Now, unfortunately, you still can't print these things. So you can maybe try to print screen, but yeah, it's a mess. So you have to kind of like do your like a screen capture, right? The kind of the old school way, because there's no printing capability yet. So hopefully at some point they'll add that. The other piece worth discussing is once you create a custom report exactly the way you want it, there's a button that says Schedule Report, and that will take you to the workflow. Again, it's QBO Advanced workflow, and then you can actually schedule this type of report to be sent automatically via email as ever often as you want. And it's in beta, so hopefully they'll improve on that. But that's it. I think that's the 90 minutes. So there's my email. Hopefully that was instructional.